One. Hey, welcome back to Missouri Sports Network, MissouriSportsNetwork.com, where everyone has a home field advantage. Certainly glad you've tuned in here. Our Central Bank of the Ozarks segment. And as always, the Missouri State Highway Patrol reminds us, take that 3 seconds and buckle up. It's 3 seconds that could save your life. Be safe, be smart, and be here tomorrow. Going to take a few minutes here. We welcome to the Missouri Sports Network, Missouri Sports Hall of Famer, Don West. Don, thanks so much for your time today.
Guy, good to be with you again, and it's been a great fall so far.
I tell you what, there's just so many stories around this fall, and one of them you'll get to be a part of here this weekend with Forsyth taking on Springfield Central. Springfield Central, an opportunity there to get to, I believe, 4 wins on the season, and a Forsyth team that has never met. They have never met on the football field. As you look back at that, and I know you've done your historical knowledge is unprecedented, but have these two met in a football game in previous years?
Just last year. Forsyth won 52-8 last year, but we think Central's a much better team this season, and they've got those 3 wins to show for it, and so we ought to have a fun time. Forsyth is one of our MediaCom communities that gets our channel, and we've never done any athletic event for them. So it's a first for us, and glad to branch out even a little bit further here this Friday night.
Going into the final week of the regular season here in week 9, obviously you've had games every week. You've also done some volleyball. I got to take part, I think you called a game with another Hall of Famer, Linda Dollar, that I was listening to the other night. But talking just on the football circles, any surprises? I know Central's been a very pleasant surprise getting off of that losing streak that they had. Coach Johnson's done a wonderful job. Any other things kind of jump out at you from this season in the football regards?
I think maybe that Webb City has lost some games this year would be a kind of a surprise, with Carthage and Nix playing pretty much for the COC title this week now. Carthage has the upper hand, and Nix is gonna battle for it too. But Carthage wins, they win the COC. But Webb City suffering a couple of losses is kind of surprising, even though we know what they've done, and John Roderick has won 300 games and all that. But that'd probably be the first thing that kind of jumps out to me. And then I guess that a team like Glendale has done well and has kind of represented the city this year. Not that that's a surprise, but that they're kind of carrying the banner, and they beat Kickapoo in a close game that we did 18-14. So Glendale has kind of been the team to watch this year in Springfield.
Yeah, Glendale is somewhat of a surprise. You knew that they were going to be down, but then they're really playing really good defense this year, and they've kind of jumped up, surprised some folks. Last week, Rolla going to Lebanon and getting a win there. That was a surprise as well. Now, Lebanon can still win the conference outright, depending on this week 9 results. And, you mentioned John Roderick, and you got his 300th win earlier this year, had an opportunity to visit with him. And as I'm looking at his record, he did that in 339 games.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It was unbelievable. That's a stat that jumps out at me. Another stat that I looked at over the weekend was Jared Beshore at Lamar has never lost a home game as a player or a coach.
Yeah.
And
the road Lamar has been on, and he's just kind of carried the ball on that.
Yeah. Looking back, you've got to go back to 2010. From 2010 to this year, they have lost 2 home games, and they both were to Seneca. And
crazy.
Yes, just an unbelievable season, and just a stretch run that both of those programs have had. And now you've got Coach Guide and the Carthage Tigers. They look to be a juggernaut. I don't think anyone, maybe Jackson, has an opportunity to maybe end their season before they get to a state championship. But outside of that, they're on a roll.
So unless I've missed something here, the Southwest Missouri teams that remain undefeated going into week 9 are Lamar, Carthage, Ava, which has been great this season, Fair Grove, and Marionville, all still in the undefeated ranks.
They are indeed. You look at Fair Grove and their district, they're going to be in there with Lamar. And, that's a game that, it depends if they both, run the table and go undefeated. Lamar's got a little bit of an upper hand because they're playing up. So they're getting those bonus points. So that I don't think Fairgrove can catch them where they would host that game. So that'll probably be at Lamar and maybe the state championship there in Class 2 when those two meet.
Yeah, no doubt. Those two are the class of the state in Class 2 this year. And another one to watch is Ava being undefeated and Forsyth chasing them. And even though Forsyth will get big time bonus points in the ratings for playing up with Central this week, that they're just not going to catch Ava, which is at over 52 ratings points, in Carthage or Forsyth at 35. So I would look if Forsyth wins, look for them to stay in second in their district.
Yeah, and then you've got a very good Class 1 Skyline team that happens to be in the same district with Windsor, who's the defending state champion. Skyline, even with their losses, are probably going to be the one seed in that district because of the fact that they played a Central. They get those bonus points, and they played Valley Catholic, back in week 1, even though they lost that game 55-10, but they're still going to get those bonus points. So Windsor's going to have to come to Skyline. Windsor's a great team, defending state champion there in Class 1, and someone's going to have to get through Marionville, who is
right.
playing
So
well.
Windsor's ranked number 1 in Class 1 now, and Skyline is receiving votes, and so they're in the same district together, and Marionville and Thayer are in the same district together, and Marionville's ranked 4th and Thayer's ranked 10th. So if there aren't any major upsets in that district, then that'll be a great clash in the championship too in Class 1.
Outstanding. And volleyball districts beginning this week. You've got tennis and golf wrapping up, but an event going on in Columbia. Bob Kinloch, a longtime 44 years wrestling coach at Central, kind of put wrestling, so to speak, on the map here in Southwest Missouri, and now it's thriving. We've added women's programs to it as well. I know Bolivar has a women's program there. Nixa has a women's program. Lebanon, two-time defending state champion on the girls' side. But Bob Kinloch, and obviously with you being a Central Bulldog yourself, had opportunities to be around him. What a treasure there, and long time in coming going into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, in my senior year at Central, I knew I wasn't a wrestler, but I wanted to be a part of what Bob Kinloch was doing. So I was his wrestling manager my senior year. So I went to all the meets, and I kept the scoring and a lot of things in Bob's office, and took some things that he needed to be done and did those for him. But he is just one of my favorite people on this planet, and he was friends with my dad to begin with. He helped me get my first job at Twin Oaks Country Club when I was in high school, and it will be an honor for me to go see him at age 85 now, be inducted into the Missouri chapter of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame, and that'll be Sunday at 1 and 1 o'clock social hour, 2 o'clock program in Columbia at a Holiday Inn up there near on the Stadium Drive, I believe. And so I can't wait for an event like that to honor a dear friend of mine.
Well, in the history, I believe he graduated in 1953, was at Oklahoma State, maybe, and part of their national championship runs in wrestling. And I think that's kind of how he got started there. And then he arrived here, I believe, in 1966 at Springfield Central. We've got the blue and gold that's been around for so long. Now you've got the wrestling version of that, basically around the same time. Do you know the history there about when that started? And obviously, Coach Kinloch was a force in getting that tournament started.
Yeah, I know it was going on when I was in high school, because the wrestlers, my friends who were wrestlers, used to call it the Christmas tournament. And then so we've named it after Bob Kinloch now. So it's the Kinloch Classic. And I know it goes back at least that far, and probably back into the 70s too. And Bob started wrestling both at Central and pretty much in the city in 1966, and then stayed on at Central well into the 2000s, and continued to coach golf after he stepped away from wrestling. And so he had just about 50 years in at Central as a coach in one sport or another. And he coached a lot of stuff. He was football assistant back in the day, a long time back. and I think baseball too, maybe, but I know wrestling and golf have been his main two things. And I played golf for him at Central. We weren't any good, and I wasn't any good, but we did play golf, and I got to see him get his only hole-in-one in 1985. Actually, I didn't see it because we were looking straight into the setting sun on a number 9 at Bill and Payne Stewart that faces due west, and he hit a shot. Nobody saw it because we were looking into the sun, and we were looking around for it on the green, and no one could find it. And finally I said, I'll look in the hole. So I go look in the hole, and it's sitting there. And I said, it's in there. And they're like, I was playing with Matt Stringer and Jeff Robbins and Bob, and they're all like, oh, come on, man. We're trying to find his ball. I said, no, guys. And I picked it up and I said, it's in there. And Bob's knees about buckled. And that was one of the greatest moments of my young sporting life at the time.
Outstanding. Again, here at Missouri Sports Network, we're visiting with Hall of Famer Don West, the MediaCom MCC or MC22. You've got Forsyth and Central here. As you look forward, what are some plans here for next week? And I know it's tough because some of the districts haven't been decided yet. There's some that are maybe a little bit up in the air. And then you've got some volleyball stuff maybe too, possibly in your future. What are your plans here going forward here in the next week?
Well, my volleyball is all Missouri State from here on out. Willard, and I do games for Willard High School too. I did their Monday night match against Branson, and they honored Coach Jamie Lee Hancock for getting her 600th win in the Lori Endicott Invitational in early October. But my coverage has to be over for them just because of other conflicts on all the postseason dates that volleyball is playing. So I will be doing some Missouri State volleyball down the line, and they have several home matches left well into the month of November. So I think we got about 4 or 5 of those left on the schedule. And as far as MediaCom football, we're going to wait until Monday when everything is official, because, you know, you got those factors of, did this team beat this team, but they're below them in the district rankings? Well, they get to jump up a spot. So we're gonna wait until all that settles and then pick a game that hopefully involves 2 MediaCom communities to do in week 10. And then beyond that, it might get kind of tough on down the line because so many of the top teams like a Marionville and a Thayer, well, neither one of them are MediaCom communities. And so we kind of have to have that to keep our season going. So if there aren't any, by the time we get to the district finals, we might be done. But we're hoping that somebody can come through and give us a win and a home game and a chance for us to continue to do football.
You bet. You bet. Well, Don, thank you so much for your time today. And again, a tremendous honor for Coach Bob Kinloch. And I knew you would have some very nice things to say about him having been his manager and pulling the ball out of the hole. I didn't know that story. That's a great story.
Yeah, one of my great sporting moments. I certainly didn't have any on the golf course myself, but I got to see a great one from Bob. So that's Sunday at 2:00 in Columbia. Bob Kinloch being inducted into the Missouri chapter of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame, and it's a great thing to be a part of.
Well, Don, thank you so much. Outstanding job today, and we look forward to running into you. And hopefully when basketball season starts, we can get back to the tip-off club, and that stuff will kind of loosen up. Always enjoy those moments.
All right, Guy. Thank you very much.
You bet. You're listening to the Missouri Sports Network, MissouriSportsNetwork.com, where everyone has a home field advantage, presented by Great Southern Bank, Shelter Insurance, Doak Propane, the Bank of Billings, and your shelter insurance agent in Aurora, Grant Baker. And we'll be back after this.